Welcome to another great session for the OA Summit 2020. Today we're going to cover the Fusion Analytics roadmap, but we have a really packed agenda for you. We're going to start with your questions, which is the Ask OA program where we take your questions and answer them. Then we'll have a thought leader join us and give you perspective on the Oracle Analytics offer, but also the market trends that you need to pay attention to. And then we'll go into our roadmap session. Now, I want to invite you to make sure that you have watched the on-demand content. There's a lot for you from partners and customers. I think about FedEx, I think about Kaiser Permanente, I think about Deloitte, Accenture, Interrail, lots of great best practices for you to share with your community so you can make sure you have everything that you need to succeed. And now let's get started with Ask OA.
Welcome back for Ask OA. Last time we had questions submitted by Miles at Proficient, Ed at InnoApps, and Tony at Vertice. And we were able to provide a lot of answers from the product experts here at Oracle Analytics. And today we continue with more. We had a lot of questions submitted, so let's get to it.
Well, thank you, Joey. We got lots of questions, of course. And our first question comes to us from Ron Nelson at Baker Tilly. And Ron asks, is the functionality of decks and cards in the roadmap for any Oracle Analytics products outside of Fusion Analytics? Now, for this question, we asked Gabby Rubin, VP Product Management for Oracle Analytics Cloud, to come in and answer this question. Let's listen to his answer.
Thank you, Bruno. Fusion Analytics Warehouse was built using Oracle Analytics Cloud as its foundation platform, and all the content is already using Oracle Analytics Cloud artifacts. In addition, there were many areas where we supplemented the experience with capabilities specific to the Fusion Analytics Warehouse target audience. Based on the positive responses we received, we are definitely looking at adding some of those to the platform itself for the benefits of our Oracle Analytics customers. We expect that Fusion Analytics Warehouse and Oracle Analytics Cloud will continue to grow and innovate side by side, and our learning from building and deploying Fusion Analytics Warehouse for our customers will benefit the evolution of our platform.
Well, that was a great question and a great answer. Thank you so much, Gabby, and thank you, Ron, for the great question. Joey, you want to take the next question?
Yeah, our second question comes from Doug Ross at Performance Architects. And Doug asks, with all the recent progress Oracle Analytics has made from a feature standpoint, is there one area you see your team focusing on specifically in the next year?
Thank you, Doug. That's a great question. As you know, on June 9th, we presented the Oracle Analytics Vision and Roadmap, in which we covered some of our areas of investments. Today, Stefan will do the same for the analytics application space. While there are always new features coming to all areas of the platform, some of the highlight projects are to continue and expose machine learning and AI assets to the business and bridge the world of the data scientist and the business analyst. This is achieved by our focus on integrating with machine learning platform and consumption of models from within the OAC interface. Another area is the support for modern and collaborative methods for data modeling across the organization, where semantics and metrics can evolve from the line of business into centralized repositories. And finally, making sure that we get the right insights in the hands of the people who need it the most, when and where they need it. These investments go side by side with continuous improvement to performance, resiliency, and quality to make sure our customers not only enjoy a rich set of capabilities, but can do that on a powerful and reliable platform.
Thanks to the team for providing the answers there. And Doug, thank you for submitting that question. And for our last question, Bruno?
That's right, Joey. Lots of questions around our roadmap. This third one comes from Ashish Bokil at Bias Corporation. He asks, could you please elaborate on the Oracle Analytics roadmap and the capabilities of the data gateway supporting VPN to increase the number of sources for the Oracle Analytics Cloud? Now, for this question, we brought back Gabby Rubin, VP Product Management, to give us his perspective.
Thanks, Ashish. That's an interesting question. Our goal is to provide our customers with various connectivity options which will fit their deployment needs, security requirements, and technology ecosystem. With every release, we grow the list of data sources that we can connect to and connectivity standards that we support. Our remote data gateway provides users without any networking background with the ability to securely connect Oracle Analytics Cloud to their on-premise sources. And our VPN capabilities are targeting more advanced deployment with specific security and scale needs. All of these capabilities continue to grow and improve in parallel in order to provide solutions to any data and topology that might be required.
Well, thanks again to Ashish, Doug, and Ron for providing their questions and allowing us the opportunity to provide more clarity on our product plans.
Welcome to this thought leadership segment today. I'm very excited to have Andrew Bruss, someone I've known for many years. You must have read his ZDNet column on everything big data analytics. It does a great job decrypting everything that's going on in the space. Andrew is also an analyst for GigaOM, so if you need depth research, you've got to check out his work. And then finally, he's the CEO and founder of Blue Badge Insights. We're putting the URL down here for you to check out what his company does. Really a lot of great work. Andrew, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
All right, well, let's get into first your perspective. You've been watching us for the last couple of years. You've actually even written a piece on May 12th when we did our main keynote. What are you seeing developing on the Oracle Analytics side, and that would be useful for people attending our summit?
Yeah, well, I see a lot of good things going on. What I've observed you guys doing, first of all, is a whole lot of house cleaning. Some taking something like 18 products and putting them under one umbrella brand, but beyond the brand, really one construct. So you have your on-premises with analytics, Oracle Analytics Server, you have your cloud, and your Oracle Analytics for applications for Fusion apps. So the May 12th piece was there to cover your release of the analytics for Fusion apps specifically for human capital management. And it's good to see all that come together. But I think it's also really good to see, as much as new upstarts were challenging old incumbents, incumbents have a lot of experience and a lot of depth and, a lot of heritage that's super important. And being able to kind of put that together and do it under a modernized platform, I think is great. I also note that your BI stuff is integrating with things like data flow and your big data SQL. So the data lake comes along for the ride. And, I was also interested to see how your event, you moved it to be virtual, which I think is good stuff.
Yeah, that's true. So if you've not been following us, of course, 2 years ago when we talked to Andrew first, we had 18 various products, and now we have 3 very simple families of Oracle Analytics products to fit under and then really match end user use cases. Now, Andrew, as you're analyzing what you're seeing today in relationship with everything that's available on the market, are there things in particular that are standing out that you would advise people watching us to go in and check out?
There's a couple of strands here. I think a really important one is the fact that Oracle has 2 major kind of identities and a lot of credibility and gravitas in both. One, of course, is in database and analytics, and the other is in applications. And that then gives you an opportunity to do something that not too many other people do, which is to be able to have analytics that fit like a glove in your applications, but rather than it being some limited purpose-built analytics set of functionality for embedded use, it is integrated, but it's not limited. You have, in effect, the same technology stack that you're using in your standalone analytics platform, and you're able to put those 2 things together. And since it's the application data that really is what most enterprises need to do a lot of analytics on, certainly in the hardcore BI sense, things on the data lake side might be more experimental, and that's good too, but you absolutely need that core data, and you need full analytics capabilities, and it really helps to have good semantic models around those as well. And my understanding is that you are providing those as part of the whole package. So to me, that's the way to go. Bring in the new trends, bring in the self-service, bring in the more experimental kind of ad hoc discovery-based analytics, but stay true to the business BI credo, because they're both important. And that's what I think what a lot of companies get wrong. They go all the way to one extreme or the other, and it really is about harmonizing the two.
That is true. I mean, the industry has changed so much from IT-led, really highly controlled, to completely wild, wild west, where you get access to everything and anything at the same time. That is a challenge for customers. In the offer you'll hear about more today, of course, it is what Andrew's referring to, the database, the semantic model, and all of that tied to your application is really a unique offer. And you're right, Andrew, we've taken advantage of the new trend of augmentation and then bring that closer to the business users and the business process that enable them to really take action. I think the piece beyond bringing the database, the semantics into the application is now enforcing change and actions back into the work process, which is what people want to do when it comes to analytics. Now, the whole nature of why we're doing this interview virtually and how we've been doing this event virtually is because of the current crisis and people not being able to get together quite yet for events. Are you seeing that affecting data projects or AI projects? Are people doing more? Are they doing less? What are some of the trends that you're seeing here that would be guidance to people listening to us?
Most people, and I feel like I should knock on wood and also, be I don't know, humble as I say this, but most people I know in the analytics industry are still kind of working through all their projects. There's been disruption, of course, to people's lives and to the way that they work. But the data projects have to go on. Some companies may find themselves in a really challenging financial situation, almost akin to what we might have seen 12 years ago in the financial crisis then. And it's understandable that they may need to suspend what they're doing, but most companies are continuing. Maybe they're not launching into the brand new projects, but things that were already in motion have by and large stayed in motion. The thing about data is, it doesn't stop being important, even in the face of a crisis. And arguably, it's more important, because if you're going to manage your business through a crisis, and if you're going to plan out the transition from being in a mode where things are unpredictable to a mode where things do get more operational, even if under a different rubric, data is absolutely critical to planning that out well. And your analytics directors and your chief data officers are going to have to be involved in that as well, or at least I think so. It's an opinionated statement. Maybe I'm stating opinion as fact, but I'm ready to stand by that. And what's also I think a little different about the industry now is because of the cloud, folks are using their technology and their software on a subscription basis. It's not about big bang purchases. And so, the show has to go on, and typically renewals don't stop just because there's big challenges.
Yeah, I think this is very true of what we've seen with customers. In fact, it's accelerated the digitalizations of some companies, because now they just don't have a choice anymore to delay that. They just have to accelerate, because that's the reality of their business. If you think about, so you said data, but there's so many layers when you think about the data stack, right? Are there some that you see are either being prioritized, or maybe that are more important now than they were in the past? I mean, you think about data catalog technologies or machine learning or any of those. Are there some that you find people need to pay attention to more, might be more relevant now?
Yeah, I think these trends were already in motion before the coronavirus / COVID-19 phenomenon got to us, but it's really hastened them, and that is that we have so many data sources now, because things we didn't even think of as data sources are data sources. So many applications have APIs that can be made to look almost like they're relational databases. We have data virtualization technology to help bring that into the data estate without necessarily having to physically move it and run it through ETL jobs and so forth. And because of that, and also because of data regulation that's in place, we have to get a grip on this. There needs to be comprehensive data catalogs built to help people kind of navigate through their assets, find the most useful data set or data source quickly, and also to manage access controls and also the data profiling and categorization so that the sensitive data can be appropriately protected. So governance may have seemed, go back 5 years and maybe it seems a little sleepy. I remember, when you and I were working together, the subject of master data management came up, and it was almost like with the 3-letter acronym of MDM, by the time you got to the second M, you were sort of dozing a little bit. It seemed very dry then, but it's so important now. And also, the capabilities of the platforms have gotten better to make it less dry. But we don't have a chance unless we're really organizing and managing those assets. You also mentioned machine learning. That's absolutely important as well. Of course it is. Everybody says so, and it's cliche, but it's also true. But I think that what's different now, or what's becoming different, is that instead of machine learning being off in a laboratory environment, kind of in an island, in an isolated environment, it's being brought into the mainstream analytics platforms, especially the data lake. And that makes sense, because that's where a lot of your training data is going to come from. That's the whole point of the lake, is to land as much potentially relevant data to the business as possible, even before you know how to classify it and structure it and maybe put it into a more formal data warehouse.
That's great. I mean, I think you're right. Governance, of course, now is the time, but also, people got hurt. So I think it's becoming more relevant, not just because it is a required part of the stack, but it's also because there's been pain and there's been regulation as well, right? So GDPR, and then machine learning is obviously an interesting trend, because now people are getting access to the technology, the compute, the storage, much cheaper cost, so they can actually start going with those projects. Anything else big that you see that you're asked to cover more, or maybe that you think is interesting for you in the next 5 years? Maybe not related to the current crisis, but if you look out to the next 5 years?
Well, I mean, I do think, if you take the platform that we're using to communicate right now, we're going to see these collaboration platforms remain with us even after they become less immediately necessary. I don't think we're going to go back to the world where every event is live. I don't think we're going to go back to the world where every meeting involves in-person travel. I think it'll be a mix. It's just like BI, right? You shouldn't go all the way to self-service, experimental only. You shouldn't stay all the way on the left side of the spectrum with canonical semantic models. You want to harmonize, and I think that's going to be a thing. That may not be analytics directly germane to analytics, but I think it is germane to the cloud. And so that companies that may have seen the cloud as unsafe will now start to pivot to the idea that the cloud may be safer than running everything out of their own data centers, because that's based on physical location and physical access. And for reasons of disaster recovery and for reasons of continuity of operations when things change, the cloud may make a lot more sense. It makes sense to pay the folks who are focused just on keeping all those lights on, if you will, to let them do that than to try and do it all yourself.
Well, Andrew, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us today. We covered a lot, so I want to invite everyone to go and follow you on ZDNet, of course, on LinkedIn and Twitter, but more importantly, check out your company, Blue Badge Insights, and reach out to you on LinkedIn if they have any questions. Andrew, thank you so much.
Well, thanks again for having me. It was great.
Well, we hope that you got a lot of value out of the session with Andrew, and we invite you to follow him on ZDNet and at GigaOM, of course. Now, let's move on to our main feature of the day, the Fusion Analytics Roadmap session with Stefan Schmitz. Make sure that you ask your questions during the session. So put them through the console throughout the presentation, and then we will answer them live at the end of the session. So you want to make sure that you stay all the way to the end. Let's not wait any longer. Let's get started. Stefan, take it away.
Well, thanks, Bruno, and welcome to the Fusion Analytics Warehouse Roadmap session. My name is Stefan Schmitz, and I head up product management for analytic apps at Oracle. Now, before we get started, as usual with these type of presentations, just a quick reminder of our safe harbor statement. Please keep in mind that the exact timing and scope of new features and capabilities that we present here is subject to change. Here's a look at what we'll cover in the next 60 plus minutes. In my intro, you will learn about what's available today and where we plan to take the product next. Following me, Ash Bajpai and Manisha Gupta on my team will take us through the details of the content roadmap. Ash is our lead for both Fusion ERP and Supply Chain Management Analytics, while Manisha heads up Fusion HCM Analytics. Following the content roadmap, you will hear from Matt Bedeen about extensibility and how we plan to introduce more and more options for customers to add data from other sources and extend the out-of-the-box semantics of the product. Finally, Dave Granholm will take you through the user experience roadmap and demonstrate the tight interplay of the Fusion Analytic Warehouse with the Oracle Analytics Cloud. So let's get started. As Gabby Rubin explained in his Oracle Analytics roadmap session just a couple of weeks ago, Oracle Analytics is part of a growing family of services in the Generation 2 of Oracle Cloud Infrastructure that combine to provide a comprehensive data and AI platform. Oracle Analytics Cloud is our flagship analytics platform and supports all types of BI analytic needs in your organization, all the way from governed business intelligence to self-service and augmented analytics. Together with data integration, data management, data science, and other services in OCI, Analytics Cloud enables customers to build custom analytics solutions. But our Oracle SaaS application customers also demand pre-built packaged analytics solutions for data sitting in Oracle Fusion Cloud or NetSuite applications. The Fusion Analytics Warehouse and the NetSuite Analytics Warehouse addresses this need for packaged domain analytics. We recently chose new names for this offering to reflect the fact that these products are data warehouse-based analytics services. The previous names that many of you are familiar with, namely Oracle Analytics for Applications, Oracle Analytics for Fusion ERP, and so forth, are getting replaced with the new names as shown here on this slide. You will see these name changes reflected in the product user interface, documentation, support system, etc. with our upcoming release this summer. Now let's turn our attention to what's available today in the product. Fusion Analytics Warehouse is a suite of packaged domain analytics that is purpose-built and optimized for the cloud, for SaaS delivery, and our Oracle Fusion SaaS customers. The product is powered by the Autonomous Data Warehouse and the Oracle Analytics Cloud and leverages the automation and advanced analytic capabilities of both of these cloud services. The value proposition of Fusion Analytic Warehouse is all about delivering rapid time to value and a low total cost of ownership by having Oracle take full responsibility for making Oracle Fusion Cloud data readily available for comprehensive analytic use cases. Oracle essentially manages the entire data pipeline. So as a customer, you don't need to worry about ETL, database design, database tuning, and so forth. The product furthermore provides best practice content, currently a growing set of 100 plus KPIs, and a rich semantic model that's based on Oracle's deep expertise in business processes and BI applications. Furthermore, Fusion Analytic Warehouse is not limited to Fusion data only. In fact, it is designed to be open and flexible to be extended with data from other sources and applications. Now, the way the product supports extensibility is fundamentally different from how customers went about extending and customizing our previous generation of BI apps. With BI apps, customers and their system integrators were able to modify the packaged ETL maps, data model, and semantic model at will. And as a consequence, often these modifications made it very difficult for customers to uptake new BI app releases coming out from Oracle. Now, with Fusion Analytic Warehouse, a key design goal was to ensure that any extensions of the out-of-the-box product can carry forward from release to release. Now, the way we accomplish this is by locking down the factory ETL, database schema, and semantic model in the product, while at the same time providing governed extension points. So customers can create custom schemas in the underlying autonomous data warehouse instance alongside the factory schema. And then a set of wizards is available for extending factory dimensions, creating new facts, creating new hierarchies and subject areas, all based on data coming from other sources. Again, Matt on my team will take you through the extensibility framework in more detail and also discuss what's planned for future releases. Now here's a look at what Fusion Analytics Warehouse has to offer today in terms of packaged content. We first introduced Fusion ERP Analytics to the market. The focus so far has been on enabling core financial analytics, taking data from general ledger, accounts payable, accounts receivable, and enabling finance users to understand what's driving profitability, revenue, and costs. As Ash will explain in more detail, our plan is to expand our content coverage to other modules in ERP Cloud going forward, including but not limited to fixed assets, procurement, and projects. Now, Fusion HCM Analytics was launched more recently. This product currently provides a foundation for people analytics, enabling the analysis of workforce composition, employee turnover, span of control, and much more. We'll also hear more about the roadmap for HCM Analytics from Anisha shortly. Here's a look at our high-level content roadmap. We plan to have a regular cadence of new content and feature releases every 3 months. Our last release just occurred in May. The next 2 releases will further expand our support of ERP and HCM cloud data. We expect to add support for Fusion Supply Chain Management and CX Cloud at the tail end of the first half of the next calendar year. For CX Cloud, the plan is to start with integrated marketing and sales analytics, taking data from Sales Cloud and Eloqua. And for Supply Chain Management Cloud, the initial focus will be on fulfillment and inventory analysis. The release of the NetSuite Analytics Warehouse is also planned around the same timeframe next calendar year. Now, what are some of the major themes that are guiding our overall product direction? First of all, you will see us deepening the cross-domain nature of the product by providing a comprehensive set of conformed dimensions across all the pillars and domains, starting with ERP and HCM today, and then CX and supply chain management in the future. This will cover dimensions like product, employee, time, and geography, just to name a few. Now, increasingly, heads of finance, heads of HR, sales, and operations are all expected to collaborate more closely and are getting measured by a shared set of KPIs. Therefore, we're also planning to introduce a series of cross-domain KPIs. So, for example, employee productivity based on data coming from HCM Cloud and ERP Cloud. With the first couple of releases, we focused on the fundamentals, addressing core analytic needs that complement the built-in transactional reporting capabilities in Fusion apps. But we do not intend to stop at just descriptive analytics. Our plan is to support advanced analytic use cases driven by machine learning and AI and leverage the full spectrum of Oracle Analytic Cloud, augmented analytic capabilities, as well as the machine learning capabilities of the Autonomous Data Warehouse. So, for example, you will see us enrich the product with domain-specific predictions and narratives using natural language generation that's tailored to domain ontologies like finance and procurement. Furthermore, we intend to auto-model KPI relationships, detecting leading, lagging indicators, detecting KPI anomalies, and alerting users when a KPI is at risk of falling outside of the range of normal expected values. Now, peer-based benchmarking will leverage the power of the cloud and enable customers to assess their performance relative to a peer group of like companies that's also using the Fusion Analytic Warehouse. As I said earlier, Fusion Analytic Warehouse complements the built-in transactional reporting capabilities in Fusion apps. Our vision is for these two product capabilities to increasingly converge into a single unified experience. We envision the analytics powered by the Fusion Analytic Warehouse to get embedded directly into the workflows of the Fusion application, where it can trigger actions and help drive decisions right within the app. Ultimately, we envision a service that spans data from all business domains, can incorporate business context provided by user roles, policies, etc., and integrate analytics into decision flows right within business processes. So for example, in the area of ERP cloud, working capital is often undermanaged. Here the idea is to leverage the Fusion Analytic Warehouse to predict accounts payable, accounts receivable balances at a very granular level, and then support finance users with more efficient working capital management. Another example comes from the area of sales. Fusion Analytic Warehouse can help sales executives and sales operations with the evaluation of sales compensation plans. So using machine learning and what-if analysis, the product can help evaluate the payout potential in different performance scenarios, all with the ultimate goal of avoiding both over and under payments and unwanted sales rep churn. Now, these are just a few examples of high-value use cases that Fusion Analytic Warehouse will support in the future. Next up, we'll dive deeper into the content roadmap, starting with Fusion ERP Analytics. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Ash. Ash, please take it away.
Stefan, thanks a lot. I'm really excited about the upcoming year, and in the next few minutes, I'll share a quick update on what is available as part of Fusion ERP Analytics, what's on the roadmap, and we'll also get into a quick demo. Let's get going. Oracle provides a complete analytics solution for Oracle ERP Cloud customers by answering questions for everyone in the organization irrespective of your role. You may be an accountant or an executive, and we have a solution for you. We think of the analytics needs really falling in two broad segments: run the business and guide the business. On left, you see run the business use cases where finance teams use analytics to support day-to-day operations at the transaction grain. In this case, users need access to real-time transactional reporting, which is embedded in your Oracle ERP Cloud application. On right, you see the guide the business use cases. This is where Fusion ERP Analytics really fits in. It's about more strategic analysis and insights to help guide management and executives to take the business forward. These use cases generally involve looking at a lot of data to understand root cause of problems, getting a perspective on historical trends, predicting the future trends based on data from not just Oracle, but including non-Oracle data sources. Now, let's look at the prepackaged value that we provide as part of Fusion ERP Analytics. Our finance customers are focused on monitoring the performance of the organization as against the most important financial goals they have set out for the company. We provide out-of-box KPIs to enable an understanding of how is the organization doing on the P&L and balance sheet objectives. If you're concerned about working capital and want to get payables and receivables related insight, that's also supported. And you consume these KPIs in a very easy to use, visual, personalized application as you see in the picture. Now, our goal is to support a broad set of use cases by really enabling our users to conduct self-service analysis, leveraging business-friendly subject areas. These subject areas provide a comprehensive coverage on AP, AR, GL data today. But best part is you are empowered to extend the analysis by combining data from non-finance sources and ensure you have full context and you're aligned with other parts of the organization like sales, HR, supply chain when you make the most important decisions for your company. To give you a head start on your analytics journey, we provide you with pre-built reports, analysis, dashboards, which provide a more detailed understanding of the trends around the top level KPIs we discussed a minute back. Now, you can always use these pre-built artifacts as a baseline and customize them for your own needs, which can be done very, very easily without needing much support from IT. Now, let's shift gears and talk about the roadmap. A lot of our customers are interested in driving procurement efficiency and want to optimize the enterprise spend. When economy is not doing well, like it is right now, finding savings become even more important. CPOs and category managers need powerful analytics to gather deep insights, to design sourcing programs, or to launch catalyst events like RFPs and RFQs. We plan to build capabilities which will provide actionable insights to enable you to accomplish the saving goals that you have set out for the organization, drive better supply performance, and minimize risk. We plan to start with spend analysis and employee expenses use cases in the very first version, and then we will extend that to support broader procurement use cases and follow-on releases. Now here's a quick look at the overall roadmap for Fusion ERP Analytics. Let me start from the top. We just had a significant release where we delivered some new features, including revenue analysis subject area, support for descriptive flex field, and historical aging for payables and receivables. In the next 6 months, we plan to deliver new features and enhancements to get you more value out of AP, AR, GL data. And as you look to the future, we will expand coverage to include fixed assets. Then we'll look at other niche modules in financials. Regarding procurement, we already discussed we're going to start with spend and employee expenses before we expand to a broader offering, including procurement, sourcing, agreements data. Projects portfolio management is top of mind for many of our customers. We plan to start shipping projects analytics sometime in calendar year 21. So that was about our roadmap. Let me show you a quick demo. I log into the application and I land on the home page. My working capital is the first analysis area. Working capital is top of mind for me. I see net working capital, cash conversion cycle, DSO, DPO, DIO, turnovers. Those are sort of top of mind KPIs for me, which I can analyze. I have another area for financial ratios, and then I go to my P&L. This is where I have all the profit and loss KPIs that I care about: revenue, cost of revenue, gross margin, operating expense. Let's take a deeper look at operating expense. I'm going to go to operating expense analysis. I see a nice trailing 12-month view on operating expense, and I see a quarterly trend of OPEX as well as a breakdown by the top cost centers. If I want to get to more details, I have further breakdown by sales and marketing, payroll, T&E, so on and so forth. If I want to change this, I just hit the edit button, and now I'm in the authoring surface. What you see on the left is the very powerful out-of-box semantic model that's supporting this analysis. I have all the attributes, facts, dimension that I care about. Well, whenever I look at OPEX, I want to see payroll cost because that's a significant part of my operating expense. I do a drag and drop of payroll cost into my trailing 12-month and quarterly view. Now, whenever I see OPEX, I get to see payroll costs. I just save this analysis, and next time when my executives access this analysis, they will see payroll along with OPEX. Well, let's continue the same theme. I am interested in payroll, and I want to see another analysis which includes attrition as well. I've been hearing issues around attrition. I see a downward trend on revenue. That's concerning. And I have a theory that this might be related to attrition issues. I see folks leaving the organization due to high pay rate, better opportunity, work-life balance issues. I see a salary and overtime trend. Overtime seems to be going up, which is not a good sign. I see a salary and age distribution. I see sales having some sales folks are more on the lower end of the salary. Turnover by department shows that there's a high turnover in sales. And then I see a very nice textual analysis for turnover generated by the NLP capability. And in order to understand more about what's happening in the workforce, we will have to look into Fusion HCM analytics. For that, I'm going to call on Manisha to take it over from here. Manisha, over to you. Thank you.
Thanks, Ash. People run the world. It's the people we hire, retain, and grow who decide the fate of our company. Even from a purely financial perspective, companies are spending as much as 70% of their OPEX on people. It's no wonder that executives are increasingly interested in ensuring that they hire, retain, and grow the right employees who will navigate the risk and propel the company forward. Thanks to the recent inventions of cloud, social media, and machine learning, we are now able to integrate data, create skill clusters, and understand employee sentiments, all instrumental to the craft of people analytics. It's not a surprise that a relatively new industry, HR analytics, is seeing a high adoption across all organizations. Let's take a look at the users who benefit from HR analytics, a quick demo, roadmap, and the extensibility options. There are several people playing a range of roles within an organization. Frontline managers and functional admins use Cloud HCM to run day-to-day business and the embedded real-time transactional reporting or OTBI to make day-to-day decisions. The scope of work is limited and real-time reports important. On the other hand, executives and management make broader stroke complex decisions to guide their business. Past trends, scenario modeling, predictions are important to address these needs. Together, OTBI and Fusion HCM Analytics provide a complete HCM analytics solution. HR Analytics is not just for HR. It empowers all business leaders and is facilitated by HR. Execs and functional heads work with their teams and have to align talent with business objectives. HRBP is a rapidly growing role, now partnered with every leader. Just like finance has finance business partners, HRBPs help drive the org's culture and employee engagement. Both need workforce analytics. On the other hand, we have CHRO and their staff who need a complete view of the workforce. We also have the HR analyst who has to run ad hoc analysis, often with multiple sources of data. We are solving the needs for all of them. The value prop is immense. With one push of a button, you can light up pre-built advanced analytics for your HCM cloud data, then drive cross-functional alignment using analytics, and finally extend HCM data with other data sources. With each release, we will deploy new content in the pre-built category as well as new extension capability. HCM industry is evolving fast, so I'll classify the use cases into 3 buckets. First, the core, table stakes. Headcount, attrition, retention, talent acquisition, perhaps even survey analytics would fall in this category. The second bucket would be progressive. The adoption for these use cases is increasing globally. Diversity, top talent analysis, cross-pillar analytics, for example HCM and finance, and even compensation, margin and attrition analysis, which is cross-HCM module analysis, is growing in demand. And finally, we have the innovative use cases. These are new and compelling use cases Oracle is leading with. Team effectiveness or team analytics falls in this category. Another one would be organizational network analysis or ONA. It's time for a quick demo now. This is the starting screen for Fusion HCM Analytics. In one quick glimpse, I get a complete perspective on my workforce. Headcount seems to be doing okay. Annualized retention is at 85%, lower than my internal target of 90%. A bigger problem indicated by this red card is 75% top talent retention. Ash, when analyzing his ERP dashboard, had observed that attrition possibly was a problem for sales. I want to double click on this one to see what's going on. Average tenure is 10 years, which is great. We are trending slowly towards the 50% target for female gender ratio. Awesome. My span of control is 8, which is pretty close to the industry standard, telling me that about for 8 individuals, we have 1 manager. Compa ratio seems okay and hires seem to be on trend as well. Alright, so let's take a look at what is going on with my top talent retention. The top talent retention analysis indeed shows that the overall retention is 75%. HR seems to be doing okay at 93%, although sales indeed has a much lower retention at 71%. I now want to take a deeper look at what's going on with sales. So for that, I will filter this page down further. This is now filtered down to just show the sales organization, and it absolutely shows that the top talent retention is going down quarter over quarter. A good perspective that this view gives me is the ability to start with the aggregate, drill down to a specific organization, see the trends for each of these organizations, and further be able to see the individual employees who are within this organization. I want to further understand what is going on within the sales organization. To do that, I'll take a look at the team effectiveness analysis. This one is quite powerful. So in one quick glimpse, I can see how different KPIs within HR correlate with each other when it comes to the overall org. So top talent retention, compa ratio, span of control, female gender ratio, promotion and tenure. In one quick glimpse, how the organization is doing. Further, how the sales organization is doing vis-a-vis the overall org. And further, I also can see how individual sales directors who are leading sales for different geographies are doing. When it comes to people analytics, it's quite nuanced, and our analysis has to be very measured. For example, the top talent retention for a couple of my sales directors is quite low, but the reasons might be wide and varied. For one of the teams, D Mehta's, it seems like compa ratio might be playing a role, while for another one, it might just be the availability of the managers, especially when the span of control is as high as 12. And then another team might be facing a diversity issue which could be leading to some attrition for the team. I'm also going to encourage the sales VP to start measuring retention in his QBRs. So these are the three cards HR has suggested that sales leaders start tracking going forward: headcount, tenure, and top talent retention. When it comes to HCM analytics or people analytics, there are three powerful grains. The first one is the individual. We have daily snapshots for individual employees and all the events that happened on a given day. The second one is the team grain. This one is a new approach to understanding your workforce. Employees neither work individually nor do they work in large organizations, right? They work in teams. We make decisions as a team, so it's only natural that we also analyze people as teams. Is the team productive? Is the team effective? Oracle has now made it possible for us to do that. And finally, we also have demographics and workforce structures. How many people, individuals, headcounts, attrition, etc. do we have by department or by managers? So the product offers all three: the individual grain, the team grain, and the organizational grain. So roadmap. Current product offers all the core use cases covering global HR. Next, we will be releasing workforce gains and losses and starting our journey for Oracle Recruiting Cloud. DFFs will be supported and data security extended with support for legal employer, BU, and department. The next release will have talent, and we are finalizing the scope and the sequence for modules after that. One of the key capabilities coming next is workforce gains and losses. Who moved from which organization to which one, and how it impacted the source and the destination, be it department, BU, or supervisor. Another one is talent acquisition, talent insights, which business unit might be having a high attrition as well as high time to fill. Recruiting insights, trends that show difficult positions to fill, or operational excellence within the recruiting team, or candidate diversity. All right, my favorite section, extensibility. We look at three examples where we could get external data and superimpose it with HCM data to build powerful HR analytics. This analysis takes the workforce data from HCM Cloud and superimposes Excel data from Worldometer to understand in which sequence I should close down or reopen the offices. Another powerful use case is bringing in HR and finance data together. In one quick glimpse, I'm able to understand the headcount, the revenue, the profit and revenue per headcount. Finally, remember team effectiveness? I am going to request my colleague Matt Badin to show us how we could bring in engagement survey data to extend this view and also show engagement scores by managers. Also request my colleague Dave to show us how unstructured data from the same surveys could be used for ONA analysis or for sentiment analysis. So with that, thank you, and over to you, Matt.
Hey, thanks for that. I'm Matt Bedine, a Product Management Senior Director for Fusion Analytics Warehouse. Over the next several minutes, I'm going to take you through one of the most compelling aspects of Fusion Analytics Warehouse, namely extensibility. First, I'll provide an overview of FAW extensibility. Next, I'll dive into the physical data extensibility model and answer the question, how do I get my custom data into Fusion Analytics Warehouse? Then I'll cover semantic model customizations and how analytics developers layer value above and beyond FAW's out-of-the-box ERP and HCM business subject areas. Then I'll show you a couple of demos, and I'll close with the extensibility roadmap. As Stefan stated earlier, extensibility is built into Fusion Analytics Warehouse. In fact, having been in the business of delivering packaged applications for over 20 years, robust, performant, and upgradable extensibility was a primary requirement in building the solution. Fusion Analytics Warehouse is a fully cloud-based packaged analytics solution leveraging Oracle Analytic Cloud and the Oracle Autonomous Data Warehouse at its core. The red left-hand side of this diagram shows from the bottom up how FAW sources from Oracle SaaS applications and automatically loads the data into an Oracle-managed factory data warehouse schema on the Autonomous Data Warehouse. The warehouse model is then surfaced and secured to business users via a sophisticated semantic model of subject areas and presented with a library of out-of-the-box content like KPIs, dashboards, and reports. Dave is going to show you all about the front end in a little bit. What I'm going to show you is the blue right-hand column of the diagram. How do customers extend the physical data warehouse with their own data and extend the business semantic model for end users? Importantly, extensibility was taken with a key eye towards upgrade. Custom extensions will easily upgrade as FAW ships new releases and new out-of-the-box content. So how do I get data into Fusion Analytics Warehouse? Well, first let's level set that a huge part of the FAW value proposition is SaaS data is automatically transformed and loaded into a star schema warehouse of facts and conformed dimensions on the tightly integrated Oracle Autonomous Data Warehouse. Once customers configure a few parameters like start date, fiscal calendar, and the such, Oracle manages this data pipeline and the ADW going forward. Now, Oracle manages the out-of-the-box data pipeline and factory schema, but Oracle Autonomous Data Warehouse remains wide open for customers for further data integration. Customer developers are free to create new schemas, tables, views, sequences, or really any other ADW database object outside of the factory FAW schemas. There are countless ways to load the Oracle database, but the easiest is probably via self-service tools like the integrated Oracle Analytic Cloud data flows or even SQL Developer. These are clearly not enterprise-scale ETL tools used by developers, but can be useful for sandboxing and uploading static tables. Now, for enterprise-class ETL development, we highly recommend using Oracle Data Integrator. ODI plugs directly into the ADW infrastructure and provides all the ELT capabilities a developer might want. ODI has packages of knowledge module libraries, simplifying integration with Fusion, eBusiness Suite, and PeopleSoft. And of course, customers are always free to load the Fusion Analytics Warehouse with their internal ETL standard or tool of choice. Now that you've extended FAW's data layer, the question is, how do I get this data into the hands of my end users? Users interact with Fusion Analytics Warehouse via the semantic layer. A semantic layer is a business abstraction of the underlying warehouse schema, simplifying complex models into business terms like dimensions, hierarchies, facts, and the like. Semantic layers also configure security, granting or denying access to entire subject areas or tables or columns, and also configure row-level security so the users only see the data they're intended to see. FAW ships with a sophisticated semantic model with predefined ERP and HCM dimensions, hierarchies, and facts. However, we recognize that customers may well want to change out-of-the-box definitions or integrate new data altogether. FA provides this analytic developer capability through a series of wizards that allow developers to do things like copy and reorganize out-of-the-box subject areas to meet their business users' views, extend dimensions with attributes from external sources or with columns FAW didn't anticipate. And as a sidebar, Fusion descriptive flex fields migrate automatically as part of the Oracle Managed Pipeline. Customers can create new hierarchies to reflect their unique organizations or accounting structures, extend or create new semantic layer fact tables integrating new external data sources, and create new security roles and custom secure FAW out-of-the-box objects to meet customers' security visibility requirements. We're almost at demo time, but I first want to note the semantic layer extensibility capability is built upon a simplified, managed development framework of branching, testing, merging, and promotion to production. As semantic models can affect all business users, analytics developers want to take care before rolling out something new to the enterprise. Analytics developers will create a personal branch, integrate their extensions, publish and test the extensions, and then promote those changes to production when they're ready. Importantly, when FAW ships updated versions of our semantic model with enhancements and new subject areas, it's simply a matter of redeploying the customer's custom branches to update the new version. Analytics developers will appreciate the importance of this feature. Now on to the data and semantic model demos.
It's easy to get data into Fusion Analytics Warehouse and its integrated autonomous data warehouse via any number of end user or development tools. One of the easiest ways is via FAW's tightly integrated Oracle Analytic Cloud data flows. Data warehouse professionals are going to be using professional grade ETL and modeling tools. However, data flows are a quick and easy solution for self-service file loading and simple data transformation. To load data into OAC, simply create a data flow. The user is then prompted for a source data set. I'm pulling in a file with our manager engagement ratings from our last performance review cycle. Management engagement ratings came from an external employee satisfaction survey and grades managers on how well they reportedly interact with their staffs. I see as I import the file that it has a manager ID key column and the actual engagement metric. That's great. I simply add it to the data flow. Now, OOC data flows are self-service, so I can perform some levels of transformations like adding calcs, expressions, binning. I can shape the data. In fact, OAC offers some very powerful text analytics and machine learning functions as part of data flows. Well, in this case, I'm simply going to land the data in the autonomous data warehouse by saving it. I give the new data set a name, engagement. I save it to a database connection. I select the ADW connection that my administrator set up for me. I name the ADW table that the file is going to land in. In this case, it'll be manager_engagement. Save, name, and run the data flow, and it's loaded. Simple as that. Now, a point that cannot be overstated is Fusion Analytics Warehouse is built upon and fully leverages the Oracle Autonomous Data Warehouse. FAW's Autonomous Data Warehouse infrastructure is wide open for extensibility. Simply logging in through Oracle's SQL Developer Web, we can see and query our custom loaded extension tables. SQL Developer Web and other tools also have some data loading capabilities. Now, OAC data flows and SQL Dev Web are not the curated data loading tools leveraged by data warehouse professionals, but the self-service and openness points remain. Further, making the openness point is the Oracle-defined and loaded FAW schemas are managed and secured in the autonomous data warehouse. Here I'm SQL querying the read-only FAW person dimension table, which is leveraged across FAW for HCM. This kind of power should obviously be closely managed. However, its availability is notable for extensibility development and data science purposes. Before transitioning on to semantic model extensibility, I'll drop a note on some other Oracle data loading capabilities. Fusion Analytic Warehouse's ADW infrastructure provides it all the capabilities of the autonomous data warehouse itself, including the new data ingestion features shown here, bulk loading intra-company account data to be integrated into Fusion ERP Analytics. I also highly recommend Oracle Data Integrator, shown here, ingesting and transforming a huge Medicare file into the FAW warehouse. ODI plugs right into FAW and its library of knowledge modules, including gateways to eBusiness Suite and PeopleSoft, make it the ELT tool choice for FAW data extensibility. Now let's move on to the semantic model. In this quick demo, I'm going to show you how your analytics developers will extend the Fusion Analytics warehouse in a controlled and curated way for all your business users. This activity is done by an analytics developer through the Fusion Analytics Warehouse console. End users don't have access to this console, where data pipelines are configured and scheduled, data loads are validated, troubleshooting occurs, configurations are promoted between dev and production, and for our purposes, the enterprise semantic layer is extended for all users. Extending the enterprise semantic layer is a methodical curation process that follows a well-defined methodology. The first thing to note here is a main branch. This is the semantic model that Fusion Analytics Warehouse ships with the product and likely includes dimensions and fact extensions you've already implemented, tested, and checked in. The first step in semantic layer extensibility is creating a separate branch for you to build and test your extensions. I'm creating a manager extension branch to group all of these types of extensions, including the integration of the manager engagement data we got from our last employee performance cycle. I'm then going to add a step via the extensibility wizard. A step is exactly that, a single thing that I can add, like adding a dimension, extending an existing dimension, adding an alternative hierarchy. A branch typically has multiple steps. In this case, I'm going to add a fact. Specifically, I'm going to add my manager engagement fact. First, I give this step a name, manager engagement. Then I choose the primary subject area to land the extension. I'm not limited to a single subject area and can add it to others, but this kind of helps me set things up front. This is an HCM extension. I can see all the HCM subject area folders and columns as confirmation that I'm in the right spot. Then I click Next. Now I select the ADW extension schema and table that I loaded, presumably through Oracle Data Integrator, or it really could have been loaded anyway. I tell Fusion Analytics Warehouse what I want the new fact table to be called in the UI, manager engagement, select which ADW table columns are the keys that join to the warehouse and which columns are the actual metrics. I choose the employee manager ID as the key and my engagement index as the metric, and then I click Next. Now I choose how to match the employee manager ID key, which I join to the Fusion Analytics Warehouse manager dimension and the manager identifier column. It's important to get the joins right. It's one of the main reasons we publish a comprehensive data warehouse reference model. Next, you define how your metrics roll up. It doesn't make sense to sum up an index. The grand total of my engagement index is meaningless, so I just set it to an average and click Next. I now have the option to display my new extension in additional subject areas. I don't want to do this, so I just click Done. Fusion Analytics Web will then apply my extension step in the branch, and from here I can add additional steps or simply publish the branch and begin testing. Testing is typically done directly in FAW's integrated Oracle Analytic Cloud via queries. I'll create a project and begin the process. First, I'll select the HCM Workforce Core subject area that I just extended and added to a project. I'll go ahead and add the out-of-the-box manager name to the canvas and then pull in my new manager engagement metric. I'll color this table by the engagement index so that I can visually see which managers are my strongest as they are indicated in dark blue. I'm going to click and convert this to a pivot table then drop in my manager assignment country column. Another click, and I'll sort my strongest managers within countries and scroll through validating data. Indeed, we happen to know that our Canadian managers are super engaged, so this is a good sign that the extension is implemented and working as we expected. We'll do some more testing, and once we're comfortable with the integration, an analytics developer will merge the manager extension branch we just created into the main semantic model branch. We'll do a little more testing on that integrated model, and then we'll roll it out to production.
I'll close here with the extensibility roadmap. Now, everything I demoed today ships with the product. Today in FAW, customers can integrate whatever data they want using the tools of their choice. Those of you with a keen eye may have noticed a few disabled wizards in the semantic layer modeling features. Those disabled features will be fully enabled in upcoming releases. Today, customers can model data by extending dimensions, adding facts, which I demoed, and copying and organizing subject areas. The framework for wizard-based extensibility was really the heavy lifting in this project. We are now quickly moving on to more advanced capabilities like adding entirely new custom dimensions and conforming them to out-of-the-box fact tables, extending out-of-the-box fact tables, and most importantly, variables and security. It's really an exciting time to be working on FAW and the extensibility project in general. And with that, I'll hand it off to Dave for the front end.
Really great stuff, Matt. Thank you. We've now seen a glimpse into the worlds of finance and HCM, courtesy of Ash and Manisha. And Matt showed us where we're going with regard to the extensibility of Fusion Analytics Warehouse, building out new data and extending the so important semantic layer. I'm going to spend a little time talking about user experience, specifically around the kinds of content we plan to build and how that's aligned directionally with our domain-driven content aspirations. I'll also show you how we plan to further leverage the capabilities of Oracle Analytics Cloud, OAC, and the Autonomous Data Warehouse, ADW. Our intention is to leverage the strengths of Oracle technology to build and help customers build ever more useful applications. We'll show one example of this in the service of our ongoing demo story. To that end, we saw in those previous demos an indication of a problem with attrition of sales members after a period of time. We also saw some early text analytics shown as a tag cloud. This was intriguing, but didn't tell us everything we wanted to know. As mentioned, we're going to be building into our Fusion Analytics Warehouse powerful capabilities for leveraging core Autonomous Data Warehouse and OAC features. One of these is text tokenization, and we'll employ it here in our demo. We'll start with an employee engagement survey as our source material. Incidentally, survey analytics is a key focus for FAW as well. Against this survey, we'll run those natural language processing algorithms, NLP, in order to extract the most frequently used tokens. That's those key phrases contained within unstructured content that are then revealed and assessed for relevance. To do that, we start with the data flow in OAC. I'll show you just a snippet of this that we've built in as a second step in the data flow. Here are those ADW database analytics where text tokenization can be selected. There are a number of these analytics which we plan to surface, with more coming online over time. By selecting text tokenization and running this data flow, we will be preparing all of that employee engagement unstructured information for analysis. We'll see what this looks like in just a second. As I mentioned, OAC is a key component of the Fusion Analytics Warehouse, and it supports all of our visualizations and underlying analyses. From the charts on these cards to the top information tile, these are all OAC embedded views. We can drill down, as you saw in the previous demos, to what is effectively an OAC project. And for those users that have appropriate permissions, they can take that project and move it directly into OAC, where they can further explore the project or refine it, save it, whatever they want. Specifically with regard to our story, I'm going to go back and I'm going to open up this employee engagement project, where we want to look at the text tokenization. There we see these tokens on the left-hand side, shown as a tag cloud. This is interesting not only because we get to see those tokens revealed, but based on those manager extensions that Matt just built in the previous session, we can tie this lexical analysis to actual business dimensions and business facts for context. For example, I could click on a number of these tokens, and on the right-hand side, we see those anonymized participants associated with their most relevant words or phrases. We saw a problem with the sales org earlier, and I'm going to investigate this further by taking my text tokenization and slicing that by role to look for any patterns. There are probably 10 additional analyses or investigations we could take at this point. However, a few things stand out around the sales manager role. Perhaps we start there. We see health and wellness as notable, as is the relevant compensation, also career and stress and workload. Note in the filter bar at the top, we've already filtered this on sales and those employees that have been around for 2 to 3 years. That's where we saw this inflection point where we started to lose folks from the sales org. As we consider these observations, the sales manager role appears to be one that could be worth drilling into further. We'll do that based on an addendum to that same employee engagement survey information. Against that, we're going to run an organizational network analysis. Organizational network analysis, or ONA, as well as collaborative network analysis, are growing trends in the field of people analytics. ONA specifically is a way that we can study those human relationships that reveal communication and socio-technical networks within the organization. Analysis reveals patterns in the ways people work with each other. What we see here is a scatter plot, where on the y-axis employees have judged each other with regard to how effective they see their coworkers as valuable collaborators and sources of information. On the x-axis, we see how they've rated their colleagues as accessible or reachable for collaboration. Continuing the story from the text tokenization, we've also filtered this scatter plot for sales managers. Those employees in the upper right then are highly desirable as sources of information, but difficult to reach. Employees that fall in the lower left are seen as generally easily accessible, but less desirable. It will be no surprise when revenue is added to this scatter analysis. It's the top right where we see our presumed A players bringing in substantive revenue. To further explore our ongoing investigation around retention, we're going to also layer in attrition risk on the analysis. For what it's worth, this is a risk assessment which is based both upon machine learning, yet also taking into account manager input. Put another way, this ML data is augmented with a level of gut intuition to produce the assessment. If we drag attrition risk to color, and then, just to sort of drive that point home, also drag it onto shape, a few things emerge. We really see risk landing in the center of this distribution. That fact, coupled with what we see around revenue, paints a picture of an organization with a handful of sales experts that are heavily leveraged, but this cannot scale. In other words, we have these A players in the upper right hand that are keeping the ship afloat, but they're not able to attend to the needed organizational growth. In the middle, we have a number of employees at risk who are more likely our B players. As suggested by this analysis and confirmed in interviews, they're leaving the company because they're not making their quota and they don't see a future there. What should we do about this? One thing that we could do is select the middle set of struggling employees. We could continue to refine this set over time, but can make a guess as to where we should start. It looks like these include those B players at risk. These individuals we will enroll in a professional development program. We'll do that by leveraging an OAC data action. To these data actions, we plan to wire in a number of relevant business processes, like those you see here, built in the lab. From the number of actions that appear, the last is that professional development program. The presumption is a portion of the training will match our A players up with our B ones. By doing this, we can get those A players helping to grow and providing some scale to the organization. We'll get those B players selling, and in time, this should help alleviate the burden on the A players. We get a little note sent back from this method that says what's happening. We could hit OK, and I see a confirmation dialog showing we've successfully completed the enrollment step of this process. To close the loop, this organizational network analysis has proven useful. Others within the organization may also benefit from this ONA, and it's very easy to wire this back into the application. After building a KPI behind the scenes, which is relatively simple, any business user who wants to add this to their KPI dashboard can do that. Click Add, and we'll search on Turnover. Then we can select this Turnover Actual and Risk KPI. I could hit OK now, here, or I can go and customize this KPI card. I'd like to see attrition risk as the card's visualization, and I think maybe I'll show this as a pie chart as well. Now I can easily add this to my deck. Any employee who had added this card can drill down, like we saw earlier, into the detailed ONA analysis. to see their own view of the assessment as appropriate to their team or organization. These are the kinds of advanced analytics we're going to be building into all of our applications. There are a couple other roadmap items that I want to show you as slides. One is notifications. While this is a roadmap session, these notifications are new but available now and are useful in tracking the day-to-day health of the business. Here's what that looks like. Here on my phone, I can go into my email and I can see that notification update. There are 3 cards or KPIs that are in a warning state. The first one that I'm going to click on is top talent retention. In doing so, I'm navigated directly to our mobile responsive web experience for Fusion Analytics Warehouse. You'll notice that we've ended up directly at the top talent retention card. There are a couple of cards above that happen to live on this deck, and there are a few below that as well. Notice how, as I scroll down, these lazy load performantly. Within our mobile experience, every one of these cards has what we call a large card, and the large card shows more detailed visual information for that particular KPI. It also surfaces additional information like KPI details, and here we are back on the KPI dashboard. To support a wider range of application types and content, we're working on a project called Packaged Application Modules. These will allow a number of consumers, which I'll mention in a second, more flexibility in the construction of smaller application packages built from the realm of all the available FAW content. These packaged application modules will provide tools for an application's definition and packaging, along with portability of these applications. Built into all of these will, of course, be the required security for any application. These will bring more flexibility in the kinds of applications that we can build. And even, for example, at the top level of the application, one might be able to add an OAC canvas or project, whereas we see those now only as drill down, detail pages. This is a capability we believe will be very useful not only for us as Oracle in building our factory content, but also for customers building their own FAW applications or wanting to rejigger the out-of-the-box content. Lastly, we think that this could be really interesting to partners who can build out their own bespoke applications based upon the Fusion Analytics Warehouse application framework. This construction aspect is part of broader infrastructure thinking on this topic. Also on the roadmap is to deliver multi-language support for FAW. We're building this infrastructure right now. In the first phase, we plan to deliver these first 10 languages you'll see on the next slide. These will be deployed at the site level first, and so one language will be available per customer. Beyond that, in the next calendar year, we'll deliver phase 2, which will support 29 languages with multiple languages per customer. With this phase, a user will be able to select from those 29 languages their personal selection. As I mentioned, these will be the first 10 languages that we deliver in phase 1. The last item that I want to talk about is Redwood Design. Redwood is a design system or methodology which not only encompasses a look and feel that you're starting to see on the Oracle website and first in HCM and ERP Oracle applications. Redwood is also a way of thinking about and packaging applications that highlights modern UI paradigms as well as search and conversation. In the first iteration of this, we will adopt the Redwood design as a style sheet without other structural changes. You'll see this look and feel emerge within the Fusion Analytics Warehouse and in synchrony with the Oracle Analytics Cloud. Beyond that, we will be pursuing the longer-term goals of the Redwood design system, and these will result in more integrated and cohesive application experiences across numerous Oracle applications. So that's a bit about where we're going from a roadmap perspective in the user and content development experience. There's a lot going on with the intent to build deeper, smarter, and more flexible Fusion Analytics Warehouse applications. I'll send it back to you, Stefan.
Well, thanks, Dave. Let's quickly summarize the main themes of our product direction. As you learn in this session, you will see us expanding coverage across all of the Oracle Cloud applications going forward, continuing with ERP and HCM Cloud, and then adding support for CX and Supply Chain Management Cloud, plus NetSuite in the future. Furthermore, expect us to increasingly enhance the product with advanced analytic use cases, leveraging the augmented analytic capabilities of OEC, plus the machine learning capabilities of the Autonomous Data Warehouse. And then finally, in the long run, our vision is for Fusion Analytic Warehouse and the operational reporting capabilities in Fusion apps to converge and seamlessly integrate into Fusion application workflows and business processes. To learn more about Fusion Analytic Warehouse, please visit oracle.com. There you will find product tours and more details about what's available today and what's on the roadmap. We also encourage you to visit the Oracle Analytics Idea Lab in Customer Connect and submit your ideas for new features and capabilities. My team and I were certainly looking forward to hearing from you. Now with that, thank you all for attending the session today. I hope you found it useful and time well spent. We already responded to some of your questions throughout this session. Next, we'll continue to stay online to answer any additional question that you may have. So thank you again.